Hi, everyone. The Art for Everyone podcast. My name is Vinnie. My co-host over here, the artist, Michael Carini, and his special guest today, Michael. Take it away.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Today, it's going to be fun. Cue the Pornhub intro. We're going to have a little more fun than usual. We're going to talk about adult stuff. So this episode may not be PG. We're going to talk about OnlyFans. We're going to talk about erotic art and get into all that fun stuff with somebody that I have worked with. And this is Raven Lynette. So Raven, let me go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hello. I'm Raven Lynette. I am a full-time freelance nude art model and creator on OnlyFans I've been modeling overall for like over a decade. I've been on OnlyFans since 2020.
One of my favorite things is we have people submit bios, but we also have them include like things they want to talk about. And you had the absolute best of what you want to talk about. You said, anything you can do clothed, I can do better nude or something like that.
Anything you can do, I can do naked.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it was.
How do you get into the naked modeling business? I mean, was it originally modeling and then it kind of got a little promiscuous and then more and more, or what happened there?
I was 18, I just turned 18, and I was looking for a job. And like I was, submitting applications, resumes, like normal stuff. And then I saw a little flyer in my community college that I was going to at the time, looking for art models for the drawing and painting classes. And so I applied. I assumed like costume stuff. So then when I went in and met the instructor and he was telling me all about it, and then he says, here, I'll show you some work from students. And it was all nudes. And so I was like, oh, that kind of art. And it was kind of like shocking at first. Like I was a very shy person, like not comfortable with nudity at all. But I was also like really needed a job, and I was kind of feeling a little bit rebellious at the time. I was like, you know what, Mom, I'm going to go take my clothes off for money. and then that was that.
Well, and it usually pays well too. And so for those that don't know, when you do go to art school, figure drawing classes are a big part of the curriculum. A lot of times you'll have to take several semesters of it. And it's often 3 to 6 hours a day of just drawing the human form. But yet it is at most schools completely nude because it's about learning the anatomy, the physiology, the way that shadows fall off the body, the interactions and whatnot. So it's very much a part of the journey. So when people used to ask me like, oh, well, what are you going to school for? I would just tell people like, oh, I just go look at naked people for 6 hours a day. And people be like, what? And I'd be like, no, that's what I do. That's part of my curriculum. So other people go and, have to take chemistry and stuff. And I just go look at naked people for 3 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah. I think when I started it pays well in most schools. The one I started, they paid the same minimum wage as they did any other student job there. So wow. At the time I was making like $8 an hour. Yeah. The normal going rate now is $30, which is about what I get paid now for art modeling.
What did your parents think about it? What did your mom think about it? Because you said your mom, hey mom, I'm gonna do this. I mean, what did she think about it?
Our relationship was pretty rocky at that time. But then I got the job right away and I told her, and then she was just like, okay, cool. Don't tell your dad. and of course my dad found out, and my whole family knows what I do now. But yeah, they were totally cool and supportive.
They are now?
Sorry, what was that?
They are now. They're supportive now.
Yeah, they know I model full time. They all follow my Instagram.
Oh wow, damn. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm intrigued by the going rate you said, because when I was a student back in, and this is going to date me, back in like 2002 through 2006, I think that at least at my school, the models were getting like $20, $25 plus an hour. So I'm surprised that the going rate is only 30 at this point. Like I would have thought people would be getting $40, $50 an hour for figure modeling.
I mean, it should be more. If I'm doing like a private sitting session for somebody, my rate is $15 an hour for that. But yeah, a lot of the local studios and even like smaller studios and little like meetups and stuff that I do, it's around. It's just now like 30, and that was kind of hard to get to. We've been kind of pressing for a raise for a while because it was 25 an hour for decades. And yeah, so it's about time for a raise. Hopefully it'll go up, but yeah, it's about average right now.
Well, what people don't realize is that it's a really challenging job because a lot of times the poses are not gestural. Like you'll do a few gestural poses to kind of warm up of like 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute. But a lot of times in class, we would have poses that were like north of an hour. And the model is asked to not move at all because if you move or twitch or anything like that, it can completely throw off the drawing.
Yeah, so now like the standard now is they have the short gesture poses, but like the standard long pose is 20 minutes at a time. So even if the pose is for the entire 3-hour class, we'll do it in 20-hour increments and take a break after every 20 minutes because you can't get nerve damage and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard work. I'm up there sweating. I'm always very sore after. So it's not easy. It's not just sitting around getting paid. Like it's hard work.
And it's never really flattering at all angles either, is it? Because it's like maybe one angle is flattering, but another angle, this is the reality of things. And I know this because I myself am on OnlyFans and whatnot. And I like shoot some content, and the content that's not cleaned up or polished. Like there's angles where I'm like, oh, is that what, this is like, you see like the in-between stuff and it's not always super glamorous.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the response? I mean, I would assume most of the individuals there are artists, so they basically treat it like art, right? Yet I'm guessing there's outlier situations where there's people that maybe are a little more aggressive.
In that realm, I do that, and then I do photography, and then I do OnlyFans, and like I do a whole spectrum of things. But as far as like the art modeling, I remember my very first class and like taking off the robe and it was totally normal. Like there was nothing was weird. Like I could have been up there fully clothed, like nothing. Everyone was super respectful. I think that community and that environment, it's very like, it's not erotic or tantalizing or anything. It's almost clinical. So they are there just to study anatomy. If anyone else has other thoughts, they keep them to themselves.
Is it more, I guess maybe a judging thing. I've heard Arnold Schwarzenegger talk about that when he looks at his body, he's like a sculptor, right? He's like doing extra work out there sculpting. But if people are looking at maybe like Michael's talked about, your imperfections, right? And then they're like, oh my gosh, look at this on Raven or whatever it might be. That has to be kind of rough, I guess.
I don't know. I don't really think about it.
Okay.
I've been on both sides. So I also, for the same class that I started modeling, and I started taking it as a student, drawing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't looking at them, like judging them as like it was a sculpture. I was drawing a sculpture.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is interesting though, because it's like sometimes as a figure model, you will walk around and you will kind of look at the drawings from the class. Mm-hmm. If I was modeling, I wouldn't be able to help but look at some of the drawings and be like, oh geez, am I really that thick in that area? Or am I
Yeah, there's times, a lot of times, especially like with less, experienced artists, is they just saw a generic Asian. And it doesn't look like me.
So you see people pulling in like stereotypes and stuff into the drawings, like just drawing off of memory rather than observing.
Like what's actually in front. And I get it. Like there's all different skill levels. But the only times that I've had like some like self-conscious things is actually from the instructor. When they're like doing a demo, and they'll be one thing that stuck out to me was doughy, like draw the doughy shape of her legs, and like I don't want anyone to describe legs.
Oh, wow.
But that was probably the only.
And you have to stand there just like stoic and like not have a response to anything. I have to say that some of the models started to, over time, because we would have the same ones in school, so we kind of build a rapport. So sometimes there would be a little banter back and forth between like the student or the teacher, and we'd see the same models over and over again. So it was like, you know them. But it really is, like you said, it's clinical. It's just part of the process. Like my first time in the class, it was like, whoa, like, so I went from high school to college being on my own. And here I am in class on day one. And for the next 3 hours, I'm going to be looking at a naked person. I'm like, cool. Like, at least I'm getting something for these student loans. You know, at least I get a pro out of it. But no, and then for illustration majors, they have to like double up on the figure drawing courses because they really need to know the inner and outer workings of the anatomy and the body. So like that's taxing on the models. It's taxing on the artist, like 6 hours of just observing and documenting that.
What's the fitness level? Is there a fitness level, or is it like you have people of plus size standards that are up there, I guess?
Yeah, like it's the whole spectrum, especially with art modeling. Like they want normal people and all different body types, all different ages, like the whole spectrum of humans, which is kind of unique in that way. And I think the modeling industry in general is kind of starting to lean more that way. But yeah, for art model, for like figure drawing and stuff, there's no fitness requirement or anything like that.
I think it does sometimes come down to the instructor and like what their preferences are. Like one of my instructors, he would routinely bring in more women than men, but it was because he said that the female anatomy, it is more aesthetically pleasing than a man. So it was just, I think, in line with like what he was trying to teach us. But he would also bring in models that were more on the lean side because he wanted us to be able to find certain structures and points on the body, which was easier to find on somebody that was a little bit. Raven's right. It kind of is a full spectrum. But Raven, you don't just do that though. I mean, so there are people that are like, okay, you know, I do some nude modeling, I do some erotic art, but you do some incredible stuff. Like the background on our YouTube feed right now, it's you swimming with sharks. You do underwater stuff. You do some stuff with ropes where you are bound. You and I have done some stuff where we've done some abstract painting on you. So you do some really unique things with your work. And then you also have your own artwork that you do.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. So after I started art modeling for schools, I was like, oh, I'm actually comfortable being naked in front of an audience. So then I started I joined Model Mayhem, and then I started booking shoots right away with photographers. And just kind of like, it was never like my life plan. And it just kind of happened and grew. And then I started branching out. So at first it was just like art nudes, like black and white stuff you'd see in a figure drawing class or museum or whatever. And then branched out into boudoir and lingerie and glamour and that. And then I found a fetish studio here in San Diego and started working there and did like all kinds of stuff. And it was, not so much artistic in like the traditional sense, but it was fun and enjoyable, and definitely like gave me more experience trying different things. And then I started Patreon, shooting my own content. And the shark photo actually is a project I did, one of the first projects I did for my Patreon. When I started it, I wanted it as like a kind of a fundraising for like charity kind of thing. So obviously I would pay my bills, and then a portion of it would go to different charities. So the first one I did was for a fox sanctuary. So I raised money on there and then did a photo shoot with foxes. And then the second one I'm like my pride and joy, was the one I did with the sharks.
How does it go with the monetary aspect, right? So you talked about it was $8, $30 an hour, and then you've done some OnlyFans, you've done some bondage or something like that. So whatever. So there's like a wide variety. Is it the more, I guess, aggressive or the more naked you are or more unique it is that how kind of you see the monetary aspect where you get more money out of it, or is it just basically hit or miss?
Kind of. I've gone through a few phases as far as like my own pricing. Like when I first started out, it was, I'd charge this much for clothes, this much for lingerie, this much for nude. But most photographers would want a whole spectrum of everything. And then I kind of thought about it, and I was like, I'm not charging for lack of clothing. I'm charging for my skill. So then I just had one flat rate for that whole spectrum. Now it's kind of like that. I charge like my lowest rates is the art modeling, and including some photography because it's crap for me. I don't have to worry about wardrobe and lugging all that around. But I do charge more for like niche fetishes just because there's not a lot of people that do them.
Yeah,
so for like specialty stuff, I will charge more. But for like the spectrum of like non-erotic work is all pretty much one rate.
And then I know recently you posted some videos on Instagram, like some cleaning videos, I recall.
Say cleaning?
Yeah, wasn't it some cleaning videos not too long ago?
Yeah, so that goes back to anything you can do, I can do naked. I don't even know how I decided to do this, but I like doing things myself, and I like home improvement projects, and I like building stuff, and I've done some like electrical work, and it's just like, I might as well just like take my clothes off and set my camera up and then have and then sell the video. So I guess like you could say it's hard for me to find a niche because I have so many interests and I love doing so many things. But I guess like one of my niches on OnlyFans is naked DIY projects. So I've like laid tile and done wallpaper. Yesterday, actually, I had to remove the wallpaper. So I did a whole live stream removing the wallpaper naked. And I've done some like rewiring some lamps and stuff like that. And yeah, cleaning occasionally.
And I'm going to need your help because I'm having a little trouble with my OnlyFans with finding my niche. So when I signed up, and you were one of the people that I got feedback from. So when I signed up, I got feedback from 3 of the ladies that I've worked with on OnlyFans, Raven being one of them, who's been very helpful. But I think that when I signed up, people initially had this expectation of what it was going to be. I think that people hear the name OnlyFans and they think they know what it's going to be. Whereas I kind of came on and I wanted it to be artsy, but I did want to kind of bring the physicality into it, but not necessarily make it super adult rated. And I think some people that followed me initially were expecting me to kind of go there. And so I've kind of been in this teeter-totter place of kind of trying to find my niche. And so the other day, my roommates brought home some like bathtub finger paints. And so I did like a little Bob Ross style bathtub finger painting demo where it was like, I'm going to draw a heart today. And I did it in like my soft, soothing voice. But as I described it, drawing a heart, what I was actually drawing was a dick on the wall. So I thought it was funny. It was humorous. It was just me having fun. But like, I would say that my stuff doesn't go beyond like what I feel is the PG-13 range, that it's very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But, I'm having trouble finding my niche and building my following there.
Yeah. I think, what you have going so far is good. It just takes time to build. But humor I'm finding is, pretty successful. Just like recently I did this shoot, a bondage shoot, and it was like very extravagant. Like I was in the angel wings and hanging from this, like a abandoned schoolhouse.
And you forgot to take off your shoe. I saw that.
Yeah. And so I'm like all strung up and I'm trying to like get my shoes off. And that reel just like blew up. And I'm sure I'll post the final product of this beautiful photo shoot we did, and it won't have really the same success. So yeah, I'm finding the value in recording and like using those funny in between moments.
And that's one of the difficult things, and things that you and I have talked about a lot, is when you're in this line of work, finding ways to market and promote it, because social media at times can be not so accepting of it. And sometimes even when you probably post your more PG stuff, some of the more PG stuff will get flagged and get you suspended. Yeah. Whereas, sometimes you get away with some of the R-rated stuff. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, I've had fully clothed things flagged and taken down for sexual solicitation.
Same.
Have you been solicited, or someone on your DMs like slide in, that kind of stuff? Like,
oh yeah, all the time.
Because we have, who do we have before that? Someone talked about that, right? They get a lot of that.
Autumn, yeah.
Autumn,
yeah. I mean, thankfully now like Instagram's messaging system is pretty like organized to where anyone new goes to a hidden request folder. Actually, like their bots or AI or whatever flags certain words and language. So I don't see half of those nowadays. But yeah, I used to get messages all the time.
I mean, even I get some, not as many as I think a woman would in this line of work. But I mean, I get some here and there, and even it throws me off, you know, and I can only imagine for a woman, it's like, now you can handle yourself. You box, so we'll talk about that. Like, you can kick some ass. But like, I'm not a huge guy, but I'm a little beefier than I used to be. So it's like, you know, I can handle myself. But sometimes when people send me certain things, I'm like, oh, you know, I feel a little vulnerable. Like here, like, I don't know. Like, and I don't know this person or like where they're coming from. So I can only imagine like what a woman has to deal with because people make certain, like we talked about, certain assumptions when you're in a line of work, and they may cross boundaries because they think certain things are okay, or they may know they're not okay, but do them anyway because guys do stupid shit.
Yeah. I get aggressive messages all the time.
Michael, for you, I guess, or for both of you guys, was there ever a number in your head like, hey, you know what? I would maybe, if that number was
$10.
Yeah, well, not $10 for Michael, I know that, but like a couple million, I don't know, something crazy number. I mean, because I think, right, that saying, right, that most people have a number that they probably do stuff, right?
I mean, the risk of getting murdered, no.
Yeah. That's part of the fun, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I ignore most of those messages. Sometimes I'll engage because it's funny. Like,
yeah,
I wish I could pull some up on my phone. I've screenshotted some really funny ones.
Well, that would be a fun thing to post or to share in social media, is like some of the messages that you get, like the humorous side of that.
Yeah.
Do you like put them on blast? Because don't some people do that where they get like direct messages and like people like have aggressive and they take a screenshot of it and they share it?
I don't do that. I think I've done it one time with someone who was a photographer.
It wasn't me, was it?
But I usually will cross out the name and then just be like, fellow models, if you want to know who this is, message me. Like, I think it looks tacky to blast someone like that over a message unless they've like done something really dangerous. Yeah. But just sending me like annoying, insulting, harassing messages isn't enough for me to like stoop to that level, I guess. But yeah, I will definitely like share names with other models just for model safety.
But Vinnie, I have to go back to your question because I feel like I kind of slid under the radar by not actually answering that. And I feel like I need to be held accountable. So for me, like there are definitely certain numbers that I would have in mind, but for me, it would also come down to who the person is. Like if it's somebody that I'm like, oh, you know, they're attractive, like, you know, it kind of changes the conversation there.
No, I remember there was like a running joke or something like that. It was like, man, I would do it for like crazy number, right? There's whatever it is, right? But it's, I mean, you got to think that you probably get solicited so many times and it becomes a slippery slope, right? Like I remember I talked to this one woman that she was in the porn industry for a long period of time. And she goes, I was doing pictures, but then the opportunities and the money I was getting thrown in my direction about doing that kind of stuff, I was like, it's not too far to kind of think it, right? So you always think, okay, what's the slippery slope? A little bit extra, a little bit extra, a little bit extra. Oh, I got to go this direction, you know? Like,
yeah. I mean, the slippery slope is also the legality.
Yeah.
So, you know, not worth it. Not even worth it to discuss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had Snapchat for a while that I was kind of using to promote my OnlyFans, which was kind of a mistake. It grew really fast. So I went there because I'm not growing on Instagram because I'm shadow banned. Yeah. Snapchat grew really fast, but you have to be like so careful because there's minors on there. And so like I wouldn't send anything. You have to age verify first. So
yeah, that's a good point. Huh.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time we live in because of these different things. And it's like, even with the podcast and like my page, it's like, it's an art page, but it's kind of all encompassing of art. And so sometimes, you know, there are arts at all levels. There's art for adults, there's art for kids, and then there's stuff that kind of spans and crosses over. But like, I don't want to exclude or leave anything out because it's part of the totality of the experience. Like we are more than one thing. Like Raven, what you said, you know, you do more than one thing. You are more than just one of the things that you do. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't want to leave anything out. But these are things that we definitely need to take into consideration. I mean, we didn't get in trouble, but when we did the talk with Autumn before, like we had been working with a bigger company about like sponsoring the show. And then like the next episode was talking about sex and art and marketing. And I don't feel like we crossed even like a PG-13 level of that conversation. Like I feel like we're actually a little more explicit in this one. And even this one, like there's a level of professionalism to it, even though we're, tongue in cheek, having a little fun with it. Yeah. But it's not just being explicit for the sake of being explicit. It's just talking about real world things and things that happen and things that people do. And sex work is legitimate work and something that is in the world. And so it should be acknowledged and we should be able to have the conversations, because how can we pass judgment on it in any direction if we're not talking about it?
Yeah.
What if you were building out like a platform, right, that was open to all ages? So not like OnlyFans, just open to all ages, like Instagram, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. What would be the cap of the censorship? Like if you were controlling it, would it be strictly no like genitalia, no like nipples? I mean, what would that look like?
For an all ages platform?
All ages, right? I mean, like if you were saying, okay, I'm gonna rewrite how I guess Instagram does it and allow what kind of content they allow on there. Yeah,
that's tough because I think like minors should be protected from a certain level of things, obviously, but I also think that they should also be raised to not be ashamed of their bodies.
Yeah.
So I think like I wouldn't draw the line at nudity. It would be the context of nudity.
Yeah. But what would that look like? I mean, is there something to like put? I mean, because it becomes. Like I had this talk with someone, man, a long time when COVID was happening, right? They're like, "Oh my gosh, wear a mask. I mean, it's so stupid, blah blah." I go, "You're basically writing a whole like rule system to protect every single person, right? You can't like do nuances and that kind of stuff." So it's like how would you describe, I guess, what that would look like? I mean,
ideally, it would be the user has to age verify, and certain things they can see and certain things they can't see. And so while it's like the censorship on Instagram is annoying and is very flawed because it's not consistent, like I get why it's there. There are other sites, social media sites that do allow everything, but then it just becomes just porn. So like MeWe, I don't know if you've heard of MeWe. Yeah, no one knows that anymore. It just became just like this this mess of just porn, dick pics, and And
what is it called?
MeWe.
Okay, I'm gonna have to sign up for that.
Michael, his new platform.
Yes. There we go.
But yeah, and honestly, like the censorship, if I was able to post everything everywhere uncensored for free, no one would see it.
True.
So I'm not that mad about it.
Well, and that's why I started the OnlyFans, because it was like I would post, well, one, I would get in trouble on Instagram and Facebook, but people would respond to it. I get DMs. I think it would lead to some sales and things like that. But I'm like, why am I doing this? I need to get on a subscription-based platform. So I started the OnlyFans. And with OnlyFans, you can choose to have things for free or you can choose to charge. And I said, I'm definitely going to charge for subscription, because if I'm going to show my ass, which I do on OnlyFans, people are going to pay to see my ass. Like, it's not like a ton of it, but like, there may be a couple posts in a row at certain times where I was like, oh, well, we happened to get a bunch that day. Yeah. But, I'm going to make people pay for that to see that. Yeah. But I think it comes down to, Vinnie, the settings, because there have been times that I've seen people do a classical, beautiful drawing of somebody like in a figure drawing class. And they can't post it because it shows, quote, nudity, but it's art. It's like, would you consider a Renaissance painting that shows a woman's boobs? Like, would you consider that adult or inappropriate or pornographic? No, you wouldn't. So there are like such gray areas. And I don't think that there's like a governing body that can really, there's always going to be people that are unhappy about that. Yeah. But when you and I did our shoot, Raven, I posted some photos and some videos that showed no boob, a lot of times just like middle of the stomach or the back, and those would get flagged. Yeah. And it wasn't showing any more skin than somebody wearing a crop top or somebody at the beach or something like that. So it was completely nonsensical that it would get flagged. And then like if you're a full-time artist or this is how you make your living and you have that monetized, to get banned or suspended or lose your monetization status can do some tremendous damage to your business. And I know that happened to you, Raven, where you lost your monetization status at least a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gone for good now. I got it back. I think I got it back twice, and now they're so strict. They flag anything like even bikini or anything like that. So I've given up on Instagram Meta.
No, I feel you. I mean, that's why I opened the OnlyFans. I was like, I'm tired of doing this. So like, I'll drop some stuff in my stories once in a while, but I think I learned this from you. Were you the one that would draw on clothes?
Yes.
So yes, I started doing that. And so I actually had a meeting with OnlyFans headquarters recently and was talking to them about how I can better promote them to open up doors for other artists and other people in creative avenues, because, you know, it can be adult stuff and I support that and that's perfectly okay. But it can be other things too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it started as other things. It didn't start as an adult platform at all. But the adult performers are what made them their billions. So
yeah, because when they tried to cut that off, it lasted like a couple days, and they were like, "Oh shit, we lost all our money. We got to bring that back."
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's a hard question, right? Because they're gonna have like different rules here compared to what in like Europe, right? Right. If Europe, I guess Europe probably has their own kind of thing. I know they use Instagram, but I mean, if they were built over there, but then also with violence, right? We're more okay with it than they are over there, right? So it's like that.
That's the thing that like really kind of that's what I'm not okay with, is how okay they are with violence. So you can post something really shocking and you could like horrible on Instagram and just put a little disclaimer on it and it's fine, and it'll get pushed to non-followers and everything. But as a adult creator or just a new artist in general, I don't have that option to just like put a warning on it and then it's fine. So it's not right how like okay we are with violence, but like a nipple is too shocking.
And what I find interesting too is companies, because I've run into this, companies that say, "Oh, we support people of all lifestyles and people that do whatever, but we can't post anything or support anybody that does this." It's like, okay, no, you don't really support them. You just want their money and you want to say you support them or not be directly against them. But the fact that you would remove content of somebody in that line of work promoting your stuff means that you really don't support them.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a shame. I mean, like, obviously, like, sex sells stuff. It's used
more than anything, it sells.
Yeah, it's used in mainstream stuff. So everyone's just a bunch of hypocrites.
So, being that you have like, I mean, so many different titles you do with OnlyFans, you do basically the modeling. I mean, do you classify yourself? Someone asks you what you do. Do you just say modeling, or do you say erotic modeling, or what do you kind of say as your title?
My title changes depending on who I'm talking to.
Okay.
I'll say I'm starting to like get more comfortable just saying like I'm a model. Like just even that was uncomfortable to me for a while because hardly anyone takes it seriously as a job, or like they think sit around and do nothing. Or it felt too, I don't know, pretentious to say that. But now, yeah, I say like I'm a full-time art model or traveling model or whatever. There was one time where I was talking to face to face with another person, like a friend of a friend, and it got on the topic of what do you do, because that's where all small talk goes. And she said that she was a social media manager, and then I said, "Oh, me too." And she said, "Oh, like what genres?" And I said, "I'm on OnlyFans." And she goes, "Oh, okay, me too." And like, so everyone, like, we all censor ourselves until we know we're in the right company. And like, that felt good to just be able to be like, yeah, this is what I do, and I'm proud of it.
Oh, see, I'm all about it. Like, I was at the chiropractor yesterday and I wore my Art Daddy shirt, and the chiropractor's like, "I like your shirt." And I said, "That's my OnlyFans name." Like, so everybody could hear, like, and then I wore it to the gym too. Like,
that's amazing.
I give no shits what anybody thinks, but I just want somebody to sign up for my goddamn page. Like, give me my $9 so I can get a burrito.
Yeah.
Is there any I know you've already said your kind of parents are fun with it, and it sounds like your title of it is really good. Is there still stigma like in like the dating scene? I guess when you're out there meeting people, I mean, how they perceive it? What's their response? I mean,
well, I'm in a long-term relationship for going on 15 years this year.
is that when did you start in the business?
In 2010, 2011.
Oh, so that was you were in the relationship before you started the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky. Like he's fully supportive of everything, and yeah. I imagine it's hard for other people.
Was that conversation like? I mean, when you said that you're gonna, because you already have the relationship, and then now it's not just you, I guess, making the decision of showing your full self.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was early on in our relationship, so yeah, I was just like, I'm thinking of doing this job. Are you cool with it? And he's like, yeah. And then, you know, he was always very, you know, very supportive from the beginning, like not one of those like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I've never been one to be like, oh, let me ask my boyfriend if it's okay. Or use that as, oh, he won't let me. Like, no, I do what I want, like as long as it's not directly hurting him and we have a conversation about it. But yeah, so I think that first or second class that I did, the instructor had met him also and was like, oh, he's welcome to come in and just see what it's like and that it's not nothing sketchy. And so he did come in, walk in on one of the classes that I was posing for. And he's like, yeah, it was shocking seeing you up there naked in front of all these people, but I got over it real fast. And yeah, he's like early on when I first started working with photographers, he would accompany me just as like my escort. So yeah, he's been here every step of the way.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, I imagine it would be hard. I mean, if I was just now meeting someone and finding out like they do all this stuff, I would, you know, probably feel a little insecure.
Now, I would love to meet a lady that is very successful on OnlyFans that can guide me and nurture me on my OnlyFans journey so that I can perform better.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not typical. But earlier you mentioned Model Mayhem. Is that still around these days, or is that kind of gone the wayside?
It's there. It's you know, crawling along. It hasn't changed much, other than less people use it.
Because I remember that used to be the way that like photographers would find people. Like it was a very big thing. So is that not how people find? Do people just look to social media now and contact directly more so?
Yeah, I think that's probably more prevalent now, social media. One thing that Model Mayhem has that I like, though, is verified credits. So if you work with a photographer, work with a model, you can give them a verified credit that shows up on their bio as like, I worked with this person, and you can leave a review. So that's helpful when you're like vetting photographers and checking references. It's not foolproof, obviously, but it is nice to like narrow down the pool of people that I'm like, if I'm on a tour and I'm cold calling a bunch of photographers, I prioritize the ones that have a long list of verified credits.
Yeah.
So that's useful, but the people aren't as active on that website anymore. And
with your experience in the industry, I imagine you probably have had some less than ideal encounters or run-ins with people in the industry.
I have, yeah. Not that many, not as many compared to others, and nothing like super dangerous. But yeah, just some, you know, very uncomfortable situations that where I told the photographer afterwards, like, I won't be working with you again because X, Y, and Z. I've never had to end a shoot early yet. There was one shoot I was on with another model, and we were so uncomfortable the whole time. And as soon as we left, we were both like, yeah, if we weren't together, we would have ended it early. Like, we didn't have each other. But for the most part, I'm pretty good about checking my references and contacting other models and just feeling out, you know, listening to my intuition.
And I imagine that's something that you got better at too, as you got experience, like, as you got to know the industry. And just like with the art world, like the longer that I'm in it and dealing with and experiencing the bad things, I learn kind of what works, what doesn't, what I want, what I don't want.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely something that you learn as you go. And I mean, the freelance model world is pretty supportive. So like, any other model can reach out to me, and I'll give references and vice versa.
Now, what I want to know now is, were you ever able to get the purple paint off of your floor from when we did our shoot?
I got most of it off. I think there's a few little specks here and there, but now I have a rug.
There we go. So people that see the photos or see output for shoots, a lot of times they're like, oh, wow, that's really nice. But they don't see the behind the scenes. Like, so when we did our project together, it was basically in your living room, like people walking by might have been able to see in the window of what we were doing and wondering, like, what the hell is going on there?
I mean, I'm sure my neighbors get quite the show and the earfuls.
What do you, I mean, so like if, and I'm assuming you probably get it, it's been in the business for what, 12 years, something like that, 13 years, whatever you said it was. Like if someone that was in your shoes at 18 years old and looking to kind of get into the business, what kind of advice would you, I guess, give them? I mean, because you can't give them the skill set you picked up where you can kind of know who's a good one, who's a bad one, but what kind of advice would you give them getting into it?
If they just like wanted to get started modeling in general, I would definitely say like art modeling, just because it's a mostly safe environment, safe and controlled environment, just to like get comfortable in your own skin and being nude and vulnerable in front of people.
Would you make sure that it was like backed by like an art institution, or because
I would start at a community college.
A community college, okay.
Yeah. And then local art studios. But yeah, as far as, I mean, 18 seems like so little now. Like I see other 18-year-olds, I'm like, oh, it's a baby. But yeah, I mean, it is so different now. Instagram is a good place to kind of like build a portfolio for free. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I did the route I took was a pretty good one, and you know, it progressed into more intense levels of stuff.
Now, you also do fine art too, though. Where is your fine art going these days? Are you doing it a lot? What type of work are you doing?
It's kind of, I like a lot of things. So like I sculpt and I do resin stuff and I do some painting. I recently started doing acrylic pours, which I really like. Like my multimedia art stuff is kind of all over the place. I'd like to build somewhat of a body of work and hopefully, you know, sell at galleries or on my own. I have my own website, and I'm in the process of doing a storefront on there as well, where I'll have prints, like photography prints, as well as my own like artwork.
I think that's a good strategy, and that's what I always tell people that ask me for advice: is if you do multiple things, find a way to integrate them together. It's like with me, because I am so into fitness, like the OnlyFans was kind of a logical choice. It's like I already have monetized my art. The other things that I love are my animals, and my animals are always in my content, but fitness. And so why not monetize the fitness? Like if you can monetize the things that you love most in life, you're kind of living your dream there.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like finding a way to do the art and then monetize the fitness, but also kind of have some fun with like the brand building through things like products, like the shirts, the hoodies, all the funny tongue-in-cheek things that I like to do.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Like I'm trying to combine it all. So like with the sharks, like I love the ocean, so doing that in a photo shoot form, and you know, being able to give back to conservation stuff, and then like with the erotic art, like the stuff that I like to paint, I like painting nudes, female nudes, and you know, integrating the female form and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm trying to like combine all my passions into one business, I guess.
Well, that's the way to do it. And you do some really difficult shoots though, because you do some underwater stuff where like there was a time that you said you almost drowned, I believe. And then some of the things where you're of course not. And then some of the things where you're bound, like these are things for long periods. And like you and I have talked about, like one of the things that we wanted to do was like potentially one of the painting shoots where we paint on you, but when you're bound. And then we even threw in the idea of, okay, well, are you going to be bound but underwater? And how do we make the paint kind of work underwater? Like, so like we've thrown out some crazy ideas and stuff, but I mean, you do some stuff that is like very challenging to do, and it requires you to have this discipline.
Yeah, I mean, I like a challenge. So, I mean, I love shibari, which is the rope art, bondage art, and I loved underwater. And I was like, that'd be cool to do them together, and also like there was some shock value there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, any of the like dangerous stuff I do is I have safety. I've thought about all the safety precautions. So I've never almost drowned. But underwater modeling in general, like kind of feels like voluntarily drowning because you're getting water up in your sinuses and down your throat, and it is difficult.
So shibari, that's it, shibari, right? Is that it? Right?
Shibari.
Shibari. So is that like bondage art, or is that just any kind of with knots and pictures?
Yeah, it's the Japanese rope bondage. I mean, there's variations of it. What I use is not true shibari, I guess. But yeah, it's rope bondage, specifically rope.
Huh.
And it's usually like very intricate knots and suspensions and being tied in all these odd contortions.
And it takes a long time to set up too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how intricate the rigor is going with the knots. I think like the suspensions I've done, I'm probably not hanging for more than 10 minutes. It is very challenging, and like the angel one, like I did get really faint hanging in that position. So yeah, it's actually pretty quick. I think
that people like come spoon feed you like when you need like little bits of energy, like water or something.
No, they let me down, and then I drink my electrolytes, and then I'm good.
Well, and I have to say, I have great respect for anybody that does modeling clothes or unclothed, because I did a couple posts recently where I showed kind of my genuine face when I'm shooting content versus my face when it's posted. And like, it's exhausting. Like when I have to stand still for like even 10 seconds for someone to take a photo of me and I have to like move position or something like that, I'm like, oh God, this fucking sucks. So, I have to give a lot of credit and respect to models for the work that they do, because it is not super easy. And like you mentioned, sometimes it gets super hot or super cold. You could be sweating, you could be uncomfortable, you could be tired, you could be hungry. It's not as easy as a lot of people think.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Where are you based out of, Raven?
San Diego.
Oh, you're in San Diego. Oh, okay. Is there other like styles of art that you're interested in kind of learning about? I mean, because that's a specified kind of art. And I already forgot the name of the knot tying one. But are there other styles of it that you're like looking into and you're like, okay, this could be another branch to branch off into?
Like specifically like
like
stuff, or
well, I don't know. I mean, I've seen their stuff and I know this is probably not the avenue you go, but where people pay to like watch people eat food or something like that.
Oh,
and like I'm guessing there's other styles of it.
Yeah, so I mean, like the fetish world is huge. I forget what the eating one's called. But I've done little variations of eating or being eaten or like actually like a monster eats me. Called Four. But yeah, I'm kind of like I'm always open to try new things. I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head that I'm like wanting to try right now. Sorry, what?
Oh no. Answer your question. Yeah. Okay, go for it.
One of my other like genres like niches is underwater fetish stuff. So those are fun. Just holding my breath as long as I can underwater. I've done one where I was pretending to drown. Is that the one you're talking about? Maybe that's
what I was talking about. Yeah. Or I remember I didn't think that you actually almost drowned, but I know that you do have to hold your breath for long periods of time, and sometimes you take in water. But I remember that you actually, was it even, I think it was on OnlyFans. Didn't you actually have something, you almost got banned from, okay, yes. I don't want to speak, but didn't you almost get banned because like of a description? Because OnlyFans actually has rules too.
Yeah, they're actually pretty strict compared to other adult sites.
But you can't write the word blood, because one time I tried to write blood, sweat, and tears in a description on OnlyFans, and it was like, you're violating. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Great, now I'm violating here too. What the fuck? But I think you can't use what was it, drown or something like that. You can't even say the word.
They were letting me type the word, because most of the time if a word is banned, it'll tell you, it won't even let you send the message until you fix that. So they were letting the client, the fan, and I were messaging back and forth, and he was explaining exactly what he wanted, and it was all fine. None of our messages were getting flagged, but then as soon as I sent the video, or it was me pretending to drown, like violently pretending to drown underwater, then yeah, they flagged it and removed it. But then I think they brought it back. Their support is not consistent either. But yeah.
OnlyFans is interesting too. OnlyFans is interesting because it's not an app; it's a site. Like there is no OnlyFans app,
No.
and I didn't know that until I signed up for it, and I realized like, oh, I actually just got to go to the website, but there's not an app you can put on your phone.
Yeah, so you can put an icon on your home screen like an app.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not technically an app.
So the request comes in, and then you do the video. Is that kind of what happens?
Yeah, the request comes in, we talk about it, just make sure it's all within the limits that I'm willing to do, and then I usually charge half up front and then half when I deliver the video.
So how many, like, what's the request to acceptance? Is it like every 5 requests I'll do probably 1 out of them, or I mean, most people usually know what my boundaries are and that's what I'm willing to do, or what does it usually look like?
Yeah, I haven't really had to, I mean, anything safe and legal. I'll do it. I haven't had too many like really out of the box crazy things that I've had to decline. Yeah.
I haven't had any requests yet. I was kind of actually hoping to get one just so I could kind of gauge like how wild they would be, because what I'm running into is like with my audience, like there's people that have come, people that have gone, but I notice a lot of them kind of don't really like to interact. They kind of like to sit back and like just observe, because it's a different type of platform. You know, I understand maybe it's a little more voyeuristic, so maybe they don't want to like, maybe they don't want to comment, but that doesn't mean that they're not enjoying the content. So like I'm kind of confused right now because I'm like, I can't tell if people are liking this or liking that.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting for a request to like get some type of feedback of like, are people kind of okay with what I'm doing, or do they want something different? And like, even if it's something I'm going to say no to, and I'm like, or even if it's something where I'm like, hell no, I'm just kind of curious to see what people will ask for or what they would ask for.
Yeah, I mean, you can run polls and stuff on there, but even then, yeah, a lot of them are just lurking and kind of shy.
Which is okay.
Yeah,
I just want to know if I'm doing an okay job. Like I want to know if Art Daddy's doing all right.
Yeah.
I think that because of what you do, though, because I mean, of course, I think that there are growing scenes for different things, but like the underwater stuff that you do, like I feel like there's not a lot of people that can do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like you may be like one of the top people in your niche because of the difficulty within the niche.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten really good feedback from people I've done customs for that. Like, it's the best one that they've gotten. Like the drowning one, for instance, I was very impressed. But yeah, it is definitely a small niche. But it's also broad. Like it covers like breath play, and like some of the same people that order the underwater stuff, sometimes they'll also just want to see me hold my breath on the couch, and then as long as I can.
See, I need people to start asking me for stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can pay me for that. I'll do that. I'll hold my breath. I feel like I've been holding my breath for 40 years.
Is it simply you just like, I mean, because I think in the picture in the background, you're in like a bathing suit. So is it like you in a bathing suit, just like on your couch holding your breath?
Sometimes, or sometimes nude. Sometimes they specifically don't want nude. So like some of the fetish stuff is actually like the most clothed stuff. Like, because that's not the focus of the fetish. So the drowning one, I was in a bathing suit because they want it like realistic, like I'm just going for a swim. But yeah, some of the breath holding ones I'll do clothed, nude, whatever. Or sometimes at least in a bikini or something, because they like to see. So when you're holding your breath past a certain point, your diaphragm starts to contract, and you can actually see that. So never like fully covered, but not always nude either.
Do you ever I mean, and I don't know, but do you ever like try to dissect where the excitement comes from behind the picture? I mean, like why that person likes that style so much. Do you ever try to think that, or is it kind of hey, I'm getting paid to do a job, I like it?
No, I'm always curious about how like fetishes start and develop. I imagine a lot of it happens in childhood or is triggered by something in childhood that they have no memory of even. The breath holding thing I get, like I enjoy holding my breath, and you get past you can raise endorphins and all that. So like I understand that, and the excitement of, oh, when's your next breath gonna come, or are you gonna drown? Are you gonna black out? Like I can get like the excitement of that, I guess. Yeah, I have done a couple questionable ones where I was like, is this person okay?
Yeah.
And then you also do quite a few collabs, like where you worked with me, you work with a number of ladies too. I've seen in your posts. You are very open to working with other people, not just like people behind the camera, but in front of the camera.
Yeah, I love working with other people. It's it's just adds variety, I guess, and it's fun to kind of feed off each other's creative energy.
And I feel like in this industry, because it's like what I'm experiencing myself, is that the only real way to promote it is to kind of work with other people that are connected to the same type of work and like word of mouth type of thing.
Yeah, like networking is super important. As far as like with OnlyFans, they say to kind of collaborate with people of your similar looks and body type because you'll have the same audience. But that's not always the case. Like I've worked with people with totally different looks than me, and yeah, we both benefit from it and expand our circle.
I heard the same thing, and I found that really intriguing because I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like if you like girls with big butts, then you like girls with big butts. But like for me, like I thought that maybe, and this is kind of how I approach art galleries, is I thought that maybe the thing that's missing would be the intriguing thing. So like maybe sometimes I would do, and this could be my downfall and maybe why I haven't really found my niches, because like I do sometimes post my shoots with you, and then I'll post my shoots with Autumn, and then I'll post stuff that's just me, and then I'll post stuff that's working out, and then I'll post stuff that's me doing prep work. And so like I'm kind of like in all different directions, and sometimes it's just a guy. So maybe my male audience likes that. Maybe my male audience likes it when I post with a female. Maybe they don't, but I just figured my general approach is kind of what you described your art with, and what you do is just me being me and kind of me like going through this journey.
Yeah.
Finding myself in like doing these things and learning and sharing the good and the bad and the totality of the experience.
Yeah. And I think like because you can get free porn anywhere. So like, why pay for OnlyFans? And I think it's the authenticity of like connecting with another person. So like, especially when I do my lives, like people love when I do lives. So it's just me, being silly, or the behind the scenes stuff. Like I'm just kind of a dork. So like that, I think that's the draw of it. So when it comes to like finding your niche or anything like that, it pays to just be yourself, because that's what people are drawn to.
And that's some of the feedback that I got. It was like the intimacy of the experience and the lives, and that people actually sometimes even prefer the more raw content, like not the polished pictures, but just like hey, the lighting's not super great here. It's not the most flattering angle, but it's like real. There's that authenticity to it.
Yeah. And I kind of struggle with that sometimes, because I like, as an artist, like I want it to be very visually appealing, and I don't want it to look like everything else you can get for free. So sometimes like I will put a lot into production, into editing, and to singing it with music, and like doing all this fancy lighting stuff. But a lot of the stuff that people like the most is the behind the scenes.
Yeah, like you'll spend all that time polishing the content, post it, you don't really get the engagement, and then like you said, like you'll have the blooper thing or something like that. You'll post that, the thing that has no effort, and you're just like, oh, fuck my life. Like, why do I even try?
Yeah. So like the stuff that is a lot more work, I do that for me. And then, the stuff that makes the money is the easy behind the scenes stuff mostly.
And
but I still like to edit and make a big production of things.
And you're pretty open about what you do, but how actively do you promote it? Because there are a lot of people out there, men, women, and others, that maybe do some of this stuff, but have to kind of keep it under the radar because they could get in trouble at work or they don't want family to know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of on the fence that like I hint at what I do. I mean, always like promoting on Instagram and stuff like that. I have like that's as far as I can go is hinting at what I do. But I'm also at the point where it's like I don't think it like I think the stigma around sex work is old and needs to die. So yeah, I'm like if someone asks me exactly what I do or asks do you do X, Y, and Z, I'll be honest. But yeah, I don't like shout it from the rooftops about the erotic stuff. And anything that I do share publicly is my polished, like artsy twist on things.
Well, and you mentioned something too. You mentioned criticism of sex workers, but people that criticize, like I have to ask them, I'm like, well, have you ever watched porn before? Like, if you've ever watched porn in your life, then you don't really have the right to criticize the sex workers.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Raven, where can people find you since you are a little harder to find in some cases?
Yeah. I mean, you can Google my name, Raven Lynette, and something should pop up. I have my website, ravenlynette.com, and that has actually for like, it's so funny, like the people that hound me for like free nudes, I'm like, it's on there, just go look. And so like my website, ravenlynette.com, has my like full portfolio on there, and then it also has all the links to my other stuff. So it has the link to my OnlyFans and Patreon, and I think I have my bent box on there. I might have to update that. My main Instagram is Raven_Lynette. You have to type out the whole thing to find me. But any of the Raven Lynettes will link back to my main account. So I also have Raven Underwater, which is my underwater account. And that's kind of a mix of the safe clothes underwater photography, videography, and then also just my own like adventures, freediving in the ocean. And then my art page, Raven_realm_art, I believe. And then my newest backup is Raven Lynette Fine Art Nude, but instead of a U, it's a V.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Do you have the multiple pages, and it could be both, but do you have the multiple pages because you kind of like to separate the things you do, or is it more of a safety precaution?
Kind of both. So at first I was trying to kind of separate things, but then I was like, it's all me, and like I want to show the real me, so I'm gonna have everything on my main account, basically. But like I definitely notice like things get like if I post an art piece on my main account, it's crickets.
Well, same. That's my life too. So, like,
or even like the underwater stuff isn't as popular on my main account as just like me and lingerie. But it's also safety precautions since I keep getting things flagged, and I can't even post censored or implied nudes really on my main account. But I still want to have a place where that could be showcased, not just for OnlyFans stuff, but for like booking or being hired by photographers. Because I've recently had some photographers that are like, oh, I don't hire glamour models, or I don't hire boudoir models. I only hire fine art models. And it's like, well, that was my main, that was my bread and butter. That was my main, genre for most of my career, but I just can't share it on Instagram. So that's why I have so many accounts now.
Well, and we'll put all your information in the YouTube description. We'll also get you up on the podcast website, which is my website. So we'll give a link there so people can find you through my website. But before we leave, I selfishly want to ask, so when you and I get around to doing a collaboration again, what is your kind of ideal collaboration that we do? Now, especially now, because when you and I talked before, I was not on OnlyFans at the time, but now I am, so I can better kind of promote things. So fair game, anything's up in the air. What is the collaboration? What do you think? What are we doing?
Well, I definitely want to do that suspension, the shibari suspension, just dripping the paint dripping everywhere. I want to do two versions, though. I want to do a clothed version and a nude version. I think we just did nude when you painted me on my floor.
Well, and the difficult thing is it's like when you're dealing with paint and paint coverage, it's like once you have paint on you, you kind of have paint on you, unless you're working with. Now, the other thing is, and again, I don't recommend this for anybody, but with my shoots, what I have done sometimes is I have used diluted acrylics, which is, again, I know not OSHA approved, not the safest thing, but like you cannot find, and we talked about this with Lana Chromium, you cannot find large volumes of body paint.
Yeah.
You can't find a gallon of body paint of any color. Like it's just not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard to find it in large quantities. There's always tempera paint.
That probably would be a little better because we did find that and I have know this myself because I have covered myself in the acrylic. Yeah, again, like you don't leave it on for long periods of time, and there always is a disclaimer that I warn the models ahead of time, and we don't do full coverage so it doesn't block the pores. But like it is a bitch to get off, isn't it?
Yeah, and acrylic dries so fast. So I've done like some self body paint stuff, and I think I mixed. It might have been acrylic actually. It was either acrylic or tempera or both or something, but I mixed it with lotion, and that came right off.
I started mixing it with water, and I found that I figured if anything, it would at least dilute the properties of it, and it would extend the volume while making it easier to get off. Yeah. So
I imagine lotion or even like hair conditioner. It's a little more liquid. Probably works. But yeah, you need to do that suspension, paint dripping stuff.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Like when you get the paint, like how did you feel about like the sensation of getting the paint on you, like with the brush?
Yeah, I mean it's like I've done like full body paint, like full intricate stuff, and it's relaxing. Just lay there and like a tattoo that doesn't hurt, I guess.
Well, Vinnie, you got any other questions? I see you kind of thinking over there. I want to give you a chance before.
No, it was just thinking it through. I mean, some of the stuff we kind of asked Aubrey, and I was like, okay, yeah, she already kind of relayed that information, kind of said that. So nothing that like kind of I think popped my head. I was trying to kind of just soak it in. Right? Okay, so what would it look like? I mean, because that was one of the big questions with Aubrey. How long did it take to clean off? And I think the stuff that she was using,
you mean Lana?
Huh?
You mean Lana, the body?
It was Lana. Yeah, it was Lana. Yeah. She was saying that it was fairly easy to take off, but then I think Michael was talking about some of the stuff that he was using before. It was a little bit harder.
Well, because Lana was using what she was supposed to be using, and I was going in direct violation of OSHA regulations and what people will tell you, putting stuff on your skin that you are not supposed to put on your skin. But like I said, we talked with Lana about that, how you can't find the large quantities of that stuff. So it's like, I would love to see if somebody come up with that so that was a possibility for the future.
Yeah.
But we do have the episode for those that want to check that out with Lana, where we talked about body painting. We also have the episode we did with Autumn. That was episode, I think, 3, where we talked about sex and art and marketing. So if you like this conversation, you could check that one out. I've done shoots and collaborations with Autumn. I've also done them with Raven. You've both been absolutely wonderful to work with. You're just super sweet, super kind, very easy to work with, very positive experience. And I have loved just the opportunity to collaborate with you. And so I appreciate the opportunity to do our project, but I also appreciate you and your willingness to come on and have the conversations and to use the platform to kind of join me in talking about some of the things that other people don't talk about a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Raven, for being here. I mean, I think for everyone, right? I mean, especially if you're looking at, or someone looking to get into the space, I think listening to these kind of podcasts are probably a good avenue, right? Because it's you and not Lana, I think it was Autumn, right? Autumn. Yeah, I mean, had a different kind of perspective of how her parents perceived it. If you were listening to Autumn, that she actually, I remember saying that her and her mom didn't have that great of a relationship like that. And then how your parents are very on board with this, right? So there's
like, we don't talk about it, but it's not like they're ashamed. I don't think. At least
for sure.
No, they're not like wanting to get a real job or anything like that.
Well, and I mean, it is a real job. There's a lot of work, like we talked about, that goes into it, and like the conditioning and stuff, and like the boxing that you do, and like all the stuff you do to stay fit, and
Well, I think the community college avenue too, right? I mean, I would have never guessed in a million years that go to a community college because that's probably going to be safe, right?
Yeah.
Relatively safe, right? And then at least gives you an avenue to kind of get the stepping stone if you like that. I mean, take it to the next level and the next level and build your Instagram or whatever it might be. But I think there's, at least stuff. So if someone's listening right now and they know someone that's looking to get in the space, I mean, I think it's probably a great episode for them to actually soak some knowledge in.
Yeah. And I'm not one to be like, keep pushing your limits. Like, I mean, I like to push my limits just because I like adventure and excitement. Like I my first number one advice would be like, do what you're comfortable with. But yeah, like start small and go from there if you want or not.
Yeah, I think it comes down to finding yourself at whatever that may be, feeling supported on your journey. And if you're not getting the support you need, going out and finding the support. And sometimes you may need to be kind of on your own a little bit if you're not getting the support you need. But I think that we've been able to, with the talks we've had, kind of show the spectrum. And maybe for some of the people that tuned in and listened, it wasn't quite what they expected, the behind the scenes, how it really works, and just seeing the real people behind it. They are real people, so I think some people are out there passing judgments, but I think that, I would love for them to tune in and hear these conversations and learn a little bit more.
So guys, please go in the show notes, go find Raven, subscribe to the Art for Everyone podcast. We do this live on YouTube, mostly on Thursdays. The audio usually goes out on Mondays. So please subscribe, please share, and go share this with all your friends. Bye, everyone.